Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Youch Films Podcast, the show where we kick back and talk with some of the animation and film industry's most interesting minds. Also joining me this evening is a fellow animation enthusiast, Jacob Weil. Hi, Jacob.
Hello. Hello.
Uh, Now, we have a bit of an unusual program for you guys tonight. We're talking with an independent animator for the first time. His name is David McBride, and he's going to talk with us all about all sorts of great topics regarding animation and what it's like being a hardworking indie animator in a world where everything regarding the medium just gets a bit too busy. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yes, yes, it can be.
The online community, especially. How are you, David? How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Oh, yeah, the pleasure's ours. Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing quite well.
Good.
Glad you guys could make it. Now, David, we're just going to jump headfirst into all this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what kind of shows you watched as a kid? What kind of stuff inspired you as an animator?
Oh, absolutely. This is fun. All right. Well, I'll just get right into it. The biggest thing probably for me was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
I was born in the mid 80s, so I grew up late 80s, 90s. And I'll tell you what, if it was on TV, chances are I was a big fan of it and still am today. Like the big ones, of course, you had Inspector Gadget, Ghostbusters, Disney, Marvel, all that, Batman the Animated Series. But, Ninja Turtles was like probably the core of it all.
That's great.
And it inspired so much, not just animation, but like my interest in different cultures and animals and everything.
Absolutely, and it's still on today. I mean, they're still rebooting it and everything, so it's definitely a very, very large property. That goes without saying.
Oh, I watched it today. Yeah, I'm still the same nerd, a little taller.
I think they just announced a new series.
Oh yeah,
is that the one?
TMNT?
Yeah.
We're gonna find out how much of a nerd I am in this podcast. I can see it already.
That's what it's all about, right?
There we go.
Because animation, we're all nerds here.
That's right. Proud of it.
Did you have a question or two you wanted to ask Dave before we really get into the meat of things here?
Not particularly.
No? Okay. Well, so David, as you got older, you grew up in New Jersey, right? That's where you currently live. All right. So growing up in New Jersey, as you got older, what kind of new things did you see that inspired you, set off some kind of little trigger in your brain and thought, oh, wow, that's really cool. I want to make something like that. Or this inspires me here. I like those characters. I like this type of storyline. How did that work out for you as a growing animator?
Well, I was, like I said, I was just a fan of so many things. I mean, you name it, Star Wars, man, like just anything, fantasy, film in general, just storytelling, writing, acting, the whole world just fascinated me. Nothing, I think, in particular about New Jersey that I can think of, although I'm sure that my surroundings, just as everyone's surroundings, has a major influence on them. But definitely my experience growing up had an impact on the type of stories that I write. I didn't always get along so well in school. And it's funny. I guess I was just the I don't know, the outcast type. Not really. Like, I like to be social. I'm a very social person. But I think growing up as a kid in school, I got picked on a lot, and so that kind of just left a lot of time for me to daydream and think of fantastic worlds and things like that. So
Without a doubt.
Yeah, that would be how, like, I guess my experience growing up impacted what I do now.
And what are you doing now? You're doing Kazumi. That's
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
The kid's book is now available. Where can people buy that, David?
The book, hardback book, Kazumi Race Car Pig, is available on my online store. You can you can get it there and everywhere from my website, davidmcbrideanimation.com.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to go do that.
Thank you.
So I guess this might have tied in with the last question I asked, which is your settings around you. Would you say that kind of displayed the same kind of role in your creativity? Because I know there are some people who they just get inspired by every little thing they have around them. Doesn't really matter what it is.
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah, my stories, they tend to have a theme of self-confidence, which, again, going back to my early school days, was something I struggled with a lot. I always said I was an extrovert type of person masquerading as an introvert. I wanted to be outgoing and everything, but it wasn't really until I got to college when I felt really more accepted and more comfortable in my own skin. So a lot of my characters tend to have, at least the main characters tend to have that type of personality. I think it's inevitable. You can't help but put a little piece of yourself into your characters, into your stories,
Oh,
and
definitely.
that's why it's sometimes can be intimidating to put out your work, whether if it's animation or if you're a live action performer or musician, because you do put a little piece of yourself, and like I said, it's inevitable. So
Oh yeah.
you're putting a little piece of yourself out there on display for criticism, for praise, for rejection. And, like I said, it can be intimidating and thrilling at the same time.
Oh, for sure. And it's one of those, it's definitely the film industry, animation, one and the same kind of, and you gotta have a thick skin, but not too thick, because you still have to make sure you show some humanity in your work, but you're available to criticism and things like that. So it's very important to anyone listening who wants to get into animation. It's a very important feature of that.
Definitely. Yes. That's something you have to learn. I've seen a lot of people get discouraged, and you have to be able to take it all in and then filter out, you have to understand what is criticism, what is constructive criticism, what can I take from this and make myself better and grow, and then what is somebody's objective opinion. Maybe for instance, somebody might say to me, maybe the framing of this shot would work better in this way or that way. That could be a help to me. Somebody, when I was back in grad school, had said, well, instead of having a frog and a squirrel in this film, why don't you just make them all squirrels, because it might be confusing. That's more like somebody's opinion.
Yeah.
Is what at least that's what I believe, so, you kind of have to, and you can't take it to heart. You have to have be strong enough in your own vision that you can withstand criticism, or even people throw negativity your way. You have to be able to take that and still be able to pursue your dream and your vision.
Because even if it's not constructive, and by golly, there's a lot of unconstructive criticism out there from people all over the place.
Oh yeah,
going aimed towards people of all different calibers, no matter how famous they are, how popular they are.
Yeah.
And you got to know when like you were saying, which is which, and you got to know that's gonna. No, I'm sorry, it's gonna come from all sorts of directions.
Yes, because you never know where somebody else is coming from. Somebody may be having a bad day and they take it out on you. Somebody may be a jealous person, and then they put you down because they're insecure of themselves. They're really the only time someone, and I know we're getting a little philosophical here, I guess, but that's okay.
That's right.
The only reason I believe that someone else feels the need to put another person down is because they are insecure themselves, and it's really sad when you think about it.
Yeah.
So
that's a really great thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your characters? I know you have
yes.
The name's leaving my mind right now. Your frog character.
Yes, my frog character. Yes. Well, that character was I created him in college.
Okay. So he's definitely played a prominent role in your your YouTube channel.
Oh yeah. He shows up everything. He's kind of like, I always call him like my Mickey Mouse, kind of thing. Because I just we had to create. I was in a sound design class, and we had to keep a sketchbook / journal for the class. And so one day I just as I'm sure you've heard studying animation, you got to do a lot of research. So if you're going to, for instance, if I was going to make a film about a frog, I might Google frogs just to see maybe what they look like, maybe read about their natural behaviors, because that might influence maybe how the character behaves, things like that. So I just saw this image of a tree frog, and I thought it was so colorful and beautiful and all that. And I just had this image in my head of him riding a little motorcycle with a peg bar. People don't know that's like what you hold your papers down when you're animating and keeps them registered, the drawings aligned. So he had like a peg bar almost strapped to his back like a sword. And so that's how it started. And he was like the comic relief character in my senior thesis film from college. So, and I put him in everything, like even if it's just a picture somewhere, he's everywhere.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
And so was he one of the first characters you ever created, or was he the first, or was there someone before him?
Well, in college, he was, that must have been a junior year maybe of college. But no, I mean, I've been drawing as far back as I can remember, and I created characters. And it's funny, my next project, I'm working on a graphic novel. I've been working on it for, God, over a decade. But I actually created the character when I was in the 4th or 5th grade, because I used to go to school and pretend like I was a different character, you know, like I'd pretend like I was a Power Ranger, you know, getting a call from Zordon. And so I'd ask to go to the restroom, you know, so I could just escape and pretend like I was talking to Zordon. I was real, like, my mind is like really fantasy and all that. So, yeah, so then it just kind of hit me that, like, you know, I was pretending to be all these characters, and I was like, why don't I just make up my own character? So I made like a comic book out of this character, and, you know, and it went from there, and it always stuck with me. So when I got to college, I was like, you know what, I'm going to actually write this thing.
It reminds me of Captain Underpants in a way.
Yeah, exactly, like the process. But this story that I'm writing would be more like everything I've done so far would be more like, you know, like all ages. And this is not to say that this would be more like PG-13. Like, it's nothing.
Okay.
It's just more like more deeper, you know, themes and storylines. So. Yeah, so that'll be next, but that always keeps getting pushed to the back burner, you know.
It's really great to hear you're doing all sorts of different kinds of things, because there are definitely some people who get locked into a certain genre, or, you know, let's say, like you've done a lot of children's cartoons, and you know, your Kazumi book and everything, and there are people who get locked into stuff like that, or let's say people get locked into stuff that's really not children based, and it limits them to that one audience, and then they can't branch out properly, you know.
Yeah,
hard to avoid being typecast.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like to try different things, you know. But, you know, it's funny because I don't, like, when I'm writing even like this story, Kazumi, when I wrote this, it's like and this may sound selfish at first, but I'll explain. I write everything for me, you know. Like, I don't sit there and write like, oh God, what will, you know, boys age 11 to 15 find humorous? If I don't think you can sit there and do that. I understand in like the field, you know, sometimes you may have to if you're working for a specific company that are targeting a certain age group or gender. But I don't do that. Like, I wrote the jokes, like, you know, funny things in Kazumi that make me laugh, you know, because I don't understand how can you sit there, you know, and try to think, what will this demographic like? What will that demographic like? You know, I just write what makes me laugh, because when you think about it, it's like, you know, I like Star Wars. So do, you know, probably a billion other people. So I must have some sense that, you know, if we're all human and we can all enjoy, like, say, this one thing, you know, and feel for these same characters, you know, as a society, then that must be telling me something that, you know, I must know what can be funny at times and what can be dramatic, you know.
Exactly. And I think it was Fred Seibert who said this, or maybe don't quote me on that, but I think it was Fred Seibert who founded Federator Studios. You might be familiar with them.
Sure.
He said that if you're in the animation business, or really if you're in the film business, you have to make stories and you have to make characters that are for you. You have to do this kind of stuff for you, because even though it might sound selfish, it's really not, because if you're doing stuff for other people, then you're not working for yourself, you're working for other people. And then if you're making independent projects, you don't want to be working for other people. If you're making independent projects, you got to be working for yourself and what you like. So it's really great to hear that you have that kind of mindset, and it doesn't sound selfish at all.
Basically, like, I believe in what, like, Walt Disney's or something, like someone like that said, is like, it's like, we don't just make them for kids, we make them for everybody.
Exactly.
Right. You know, we were talking before this, and you had mentioned, like, you watched, I think you said Dexter's Lab. Am I correct? Like, you watched that? Okay. If you watch something like that now, I mean, like, you get the jokes that went over your head as a kid.
Exactly.
And it's funny because, like, nowadays, like, I watch a lot of the things that are, like, say, on the Cartoon Network or Disney, and they're extremely dumbed down. Like, the jokes are just, like, you know, toilet humor, and they're loud, and it's not clever, and it's not funny like it was, like, in the 90s or something, you know, because I don't know what it is, but it's just this idea that maybe, like, kids won't understand it. But it's like, you know, we loved shows like Dexter growing up, and you know, like Animaniacs. Like you watch that now, and there's like, you know, you're like, how did I, you know, miss all these jokes as a kid?
Yeah, there's jokes left and right back, you know, back in the good old days, the '90s and early 2000s, where, you know, shows like Rocko's Modern Life or Ed and Eddie, Dexter's Lab, Animaniacs had all those that interesting humor that just it worked, and it worked then and it works now.
Yeah,
it works, but it works for different reasons, you know. So
oh yeah.
They're still up. I mean, you'd think that people would catch on to that, and some do, of course, but
yeah,
you think it'd get better over time, but no, I guess it really hasn't, has it?
No, yeah, there's been this, I don't know, this thing that's just like, you know, I don't know, there just seems to be constricted, like all the shows seem the same, you know, and I don't know, it's a shame, you know, but I don't know what to say with that. It's just
a lot of channels are actually on a turnaround lately because of all that. Like a lot of them are actually like putting an increased focus on storytelling and stuff and things like that.
Yeah. You know, I heard good things, I think, about the new version of DuckTales. I just haven't been able to catch it yet.
Or Nickelodeon's bringing back Rocko's Modern Life as a movie, and them. So, I think companies are slowly starting to catch on. Right now, I think, like Disney, Nickelodeon, they're really starting to catch on. But I think if there was one channel that I'd say one major channel that I'd say needs to still, you know, catch on to the game, it's Cartoon Network. Because they have a lot of interesting stuff on their channel currently, but it's a lot of it's you know, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I don't want to put dirt on it, because I don't like putting dirt on any shows that I haven't fully watched. Sure. But I have watched Teen Titans Go, and I like so many people say, I just don't think it's smart. You know, what I have seen from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is it's stuff like that you're talking about, where it's just, you know, humor that just doesn't stick over time, and it's forgettable, and so it makes it's what makes one of those shows that just goes in the.
I think you guys would like. I think you guys would like Amazing World of Gumball, though.
I haven't watched it much. It looks like it's like multimedia, right? Am I right? Is it like drawn and okay? Yeah, that's cool.
Like animation, CG, occasional stop motion, all that stuff.
Yeah,
and that's made overseas too, so that's not made by American developers. I mean, obviously Cartoon Network's, you know, they're American, but it's I think it's made over in the UK, I want to say, but
it's technically British.
British, that's what,
yeah. And this is nothing against like the animators or the story, because you know they're given a job to do. You know what I mean? It's more like from the people who are outside of the creative world, like the studio executives who give down the orders, and they have no choice. You know, if they want a job, they have to follow it. You know,
exactly.
So
they're like I was saying before, there's so many people who and we're getting a little off topic here, so I'll make this quick. There's so many people over the years who have been just totally ridiculing the head director at Cartoon Network for allowing so much Teen Titans Go to be broadcasted. But really, it's not her fault. She has orders to complete. It's not her choice specifically. She does have bosses above her, so you know, there's so many different things that a lot of people just don't understand. And if they would just take the extra time to do their extra research and understand how different studios and networks work, they'd understand, okay, this isn't like that. It's a big misunderstanding. I shouldn't be, you know, constantly ridiculing these producers and directors and everything.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, so tell us about Kazumi and how Kazumi got started, because that's obviously the big project you're working on here. I think he's in the little picture there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kazumi got started out of I had finished my first children's book, which is called Dimitri Has His Head in the Clouds, and I had done a live action / animated film, which was the first time doing both of them. And I had always wanted to do a story about different cultures, because that's one of my interests, learning about different cultures, just the way, you know, people do the same things that maybe we do here in America in different parts of the world. You know, the clothes they wear, the different clothes they wear, the different foods they eat. It kind of just fascinates me. And so I always knew I wanted to do a story like that. And then there were two instances where I heard children say negative things about people in another culture. Excuse me. One was here. I was doing my college senior thesis, and there was a kid who was doing a voice for me, and he had said something not so nice about people from another country. And then, like, I watched the news and I saw kids in other countries like chanting how they hated America. And I thought in both instances, I thought like, that's really sad, because that's not coming naturally from the kids. They're that, or they experience that in their homes, and it's really sad. So I wanted to do a story where the character, he doesn't hate, of course, but he's afraid of what's different, what he's not used to in his culture.
Just like so many people like you're talking about, so many people today.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I go to a lot of the schools, elementary schools. It started back. I was invited back to my my old elementary school, and it kind of snowballed from there. Mm-hmm. But what I find is that I think this story would more need to be read by the adults, because the kids are so genuine and they seem to just be open to differences in each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't seem to have a real problem with that. So now that's the idea I had. And I was watching this channel. I used to watch it all the time before our cable provider took it away, but it's called NHK World, and it's news from Japan. And it's not just news, it shows about Japanese film and art and culture and food.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's all like Japanese centered programming. And I was like, when I found this, like 8 years ago, I was like, man, this channel was like made for me, So, so I was watching a news story, and they were doing something about pigs, and I thought, oh, that looks like a cute pig. So I started getting into that, and I just I wanted to make it wacky. So I was like, what can I do? Like, he's a pig, and then he drives a race car, but the race car can go into space. And I'm always thinking of back to Ninja Turtles, they had these friends called the Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X, and they had a car that could fly. The wheels would kind of turn under, and so I'm always thinking like that. And that was so I was like, okay, well, he's a race car pig, but he's like also goes into space, and and then there was a reporter on, I think it was another news story, and his name was Kazumi, and it all just seemed to click, like Kazumi, like Zoom in the car. So, like everything, it kind of starts out as a whole mess of ideas, without a real structure. At one point I thought, okay, well, maybe Kazumi could visit, famous landmarks all over the world, like the Eiffel Tower, Statue of Liberty, all that. And then, but I kind of wanted to make it a little more concise and to the point. So I thought, okay, well, he has these, friends that come, these animal friends come along one by one, and he kind of politely, turns them down to participate in their, different events, the foods, trying their foods or their dances or their songs. And but one night when he goes flying in his space race car and crashes on an alien planet, he's kind of thrusted into a world of different, literally. Mm-hmm. And he has to kind of experience this to get back home, and that's where he kind of learns that different isn't a bad thing, and it's a great can be a great thing. Mm-hmm. And for sure. So that's how it got started, and that's where I am today. Now the book, I released the book in January of 2017, and well into the film version.
Wow.
Yep.
Now it's really great how you have the children's book, and then you also have this new animation you're working on. It's a really great way to just break into these children's worlds, because they'll go to the bookstore and they'll read the book, or the parents will get the book from online or for something like that. And then because there are so many kids who are just they're pretty much any kind of most people today, grown-ups and kids alike, are always on the internet and watching animation or whatever it is on YouTube. Like watch. So I think making it available on both platforms like that is really smart way of really registering everything and just setting things up. It's a really great idea, and I wish more people would do stuff like that.
Yeah, I just felt like I went this I have this passion for animation, and I thought, well, why not? Why not make a film out of my own book, based off my own book? I feel like I have the tools here. Like a lot of people might be just like, say, an author, and they might have to go somewhere else to hire maybe an animator or a studio to do this. And I feel like, well, why not take advantage if I can do all of it?
Exactly, taking advantage of it, and in the best possible ways, right? I mean,
yeah.
Jacob, did you have something you wanted to say?
Like, do you do your own voice acting?
Um, excuse me. I do some. Yes, I do the voice of Dax. He doesn't have a speaking part in this film, but I have done most of the voices. But for this film, I do the narration, but I got other voice acters.
Now, why don't you tell us about that? Because you got some
Yes.
really interesting voices for these
Yes, yes, I do.
characters.
It's been a thrill. Well, Kazumi is voiced by Anna Brispin. You may have seen her online. She goes by the name Brizzy Voices, and she's a very talented voice actress, extremely talented. And so I reached out to her, and she loved the story, and she came on board. I was really, really excited. You know, she sent me some demos, and we went back and forth and settled on a voice, and I'm just thrilled with how it came out. And then I have Jason Marsden, who voiced Max Goofy's son, and he voiced Aku in the English dub of Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away. Kovu from Lion King 2. He's just done many things. And in the 90s, he was like on Full House and shows like Step by Step, Boy Meets World. Yeah, so that was just really, really thrilling to get both of them.
Who does Jason play then?
Jason plays Pablo the tortoise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's 3 other animals. There's 3 other animals that approach Kazumi with their different backgrounds, their foods, and Pablo the tortoise is one of them. When I was writing the story, I wanted to get different animals from different and look to where they actually were in the world, like where those animals are native to in the world. So, and then I found like names, like there's a red crowned crane whose name is Chan Ming, and I believe they were native China. So if I have that right, I believe, so yeah, so I just, that's how that came about. So yeah, I got Anna and Jason. And I do the narration, like I said, so it's wonderful. And yeah, so
that's terrific. And I'm sure just having big name voice actors on your project like that, it's got to just I know that feeling where it drives you, and it's just that extra motivation you need just to go home after work and get the animation done, get it colored, get it processed, and everything like that. It must be a complete thrill to have people on your project like that.
It is. When I got the voice back and I was animating to Anna's voice, it was so much fun. Sometimes I plan it out, and then sometimes with the way someone else, like the voice actor, may pronounce a certain line, sparks new ideas. So that's always a thrill too. And it's funny because I said, I go to the elementary schools, and now what's different this year is I bring along some rough animation clips to show the kids, and one has Anna's voice in it, so it's really exciting to see their reaction to that.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
So what kind of process do you use? Why don't you tell our listeners here, what kind of process do you use to animate Kazumi and your other projects?
Sure. Well, I mostly do traditional animation, which means pencil and paper. Technically, it's what they would call tradigital, which is like, because I do pencil and paper and I scan it in and do the coloring. True traditional would be like back in the old days when they actually inked these drawings on celluloid and then colored them. So what I do is I just do I'll either, if I don't write the words first, I'll do storyboards. They're kind of happening, simultaneously sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me, thumbnails for the storyboards. Everything's like, when I tell the kids, and I'm like telling them, I'm like, okay, well, this is what we call rough animation. I say, do you ever have to write a paper in school and first you have to do a rough draft or an outline? And I'm like, well, animation is the same way. And it really is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, as you know, so it's like everything seems to have a rough step before you get to the final. So I'll do like a bunch of little thumbnail sketches, and then they'll become the storyboards. And then the storyboards, after the storyboards, I'll do the layouts, which are the backgrounds, and, planning how the scene's going to look, where the characters are going, the objects are going to be. And then from there, I'll do rough animation. But even before that, I'll still sketch some rough poses, to make sure I get the poses down. And when I get to the, even in the storyboarding phase, in animation, you have to actually get up and act out. You have to, you have to be an actor. They call animators actors with pencils. So you get up and you actually act it out. So like for one instance, I have a scene where Kazumi, he's got like this underground base, sort of like where he has his cars and stuff. So he's getting out of bed and he's pressing buttons and going down his secret slide and all that. So I actually had to get up, and maybe like 20 plus times I'm getting up and I'm laying down pretending like I'm in bed under the covers and pushing the covers off and doing all these things that he's doing for a couple reasons. One, to get the timing down. To get an understanding how long does this action actually going to take. And in animation, sometimes the action can be a little quicker, and it's just the way it is with animation as opposed to live action. But I'm also feeling the character. So like now I'm kind of like, okay, I'm pretending like I'm this little kid, like Kazumi is, and like I'll do something like, okay, well, I'll push the covers off, and I kind of shuffle my feet to kind of push them down. And I'm like, if I didn't get up and act that out, I might not have felt that. And it's those little subtleties that the viewer picks up on, and it adds a sense of authenticity. Exactly. And they're kind of going to feel like, oh, I did that when I was a kid, or my kid does that, or that's so cute, kind of adds a realistic element to it.
And like you were saying before, how your characters are kind of reflect who you are or what you've been through, or stuff like that. So then acting that character out, it just proves that fact even more, that you really are these characters, and these characters are acting out your exact movements.
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's a fun process. It's a lot of work, and that's what some people not in the field don't understand sometimes. It's a lot of fun. It's like it's a ton of drawings. I recently posted a post. I finished the rough animation for my film a few weeks ago. And it's like, it's a large stack of drawings, and that seemed to catch a lot of attention of a lot of people because they just don't realize what the sheer volume of drawings that it takes to make just a few seconds, or in this case, like 7 to 8 minutes.
At least 24 drawings per second.
Yes, and I tell that to people, and some people get it, some people it just goes over their heads, but it is what it is. And then so like I put up that stack, and I'm telling now I have to actually redraw all of those drawings in the cleanup animation process, because for the viewers who don't know, the rough animation is all about getting the acting and the timing down of the action.
And like what you see in this picture in the thumbnail here of Kazumi, yes. the blue outline.
That's right. That's a drawing, a rough drawing. Is a scene where he's talking to his mom about the different creatures he met, and so like this scene, like I'm you don't want to totally forget anatomy and all that, but your main focus here is on the acting, the action, the movements, all that. Now, like for instance, this drawing that you can see on the screen, what I will do is I will go back, and now that I've got the acting down where I'm happy with it, I'm going to go back and make sure that all the proportions are even from one drawing to the next. Like an arm's not longer in drawing 1 and then shorter in drawing 5. So you got to put a different hat on and pay attention to that. And it's very detailed. A drawing that may have taken you 8 seconds in the rough animation may take 20 minutes cleaning it up. So
and you mentioned peg bars before and things like that, but the hole punchers, do you have? I know you mentioned before about people who might have a college they go to get the holes punched in the special animation paper. Is that your case, or do you actually have an actual hole puncher?
No, I have it. I've had all the equipment since most of it since college. I've had the hole punch, the animation disc. You can see a little bit of the disc behind me there in that picture. I mean, there's different ways, like for the viewers who want to get started, if you want to get started, animation, some of the animation equipment suppliers sell a regular 3-hole punch that you can just, you have everywhere. You can get a cheap hole punch. Now that doesn't keep the drawings registered as tightly as the animation. You can see on the screen, if you look through the metal little bars poking through the holes on the page, you'll notice that the center one is a typical round hole, but the one you see, I'm looking at the left here, is like a rectangular, and there's another rectangular to the other side, and that keeps the drawings from moving, because you don't want it to shift a different way. But if you're starting animation, and you want to just dive right in and start trying it out, which would be great. That's definitely an option.
Just doing it any way they can, right? Any way you can.
Yeah, it's a cheap plastic peg bar, might be like $3. And I still use the and you can get the 3-hole punch or the one that's like the animation, regular animation holes. And I still use it. I have it taped to a scanner, flatbed scanner, when I scan in the drawings. So yeah, but you could just tape that down to a desk. A drawing board would be better. There's something that's on an incline, and then you can get started.
Jacob, did you have something you wanted to say? I heard you trying to.
Sorry.
That's all right. Did you have a question?
I just wanted to say something. It's really interesting that I've and a lot of the animations of it. It's like compared to other films and stuff, like an animated movie gets like made no less than 3 different times.
Guess what? What's that?
That's like animated movies, like as much work goes into one as like other films normally go into like 3 times.
Oh sure, yeah, definitely, definitely. It's interesting, like when for like a live action movie, maybe can shoot in like what 3 months, 6 months, and in animation's like several years.
Yeah.
It's nothing against. I mean, I love live action films, of course, but I'm just to give that comparison to people who don't understand. I mean, I've certainly gotten many times as an independent animator from people and clients. I remember one person when I was just out of school, and she was like, "I just don't understand why animation costs so much." And that's fine. I can't expect somebody to understand that in the field, but
it's because it takes time.
Yeah, time and a lot of people. If you want it, the faster you want it done, the more people you're going to need.
Not to mention if you don't already have all the paper, it takes so much paper.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So how long did it take you to get all of the final, not final, I'm sorry, the rough animation? How long did that take?
That took about a year and a month.
Year and a month. Okay.
Yeah, and like a whole, for instance, like I didn't work on the film for a whole month. It was like November, around the holidays. I was working doing work for another company, and between that and the holidays, and doing holiday things with family and everything like that, it just was life. We got it. Life happens. And so it probably I guess maybe a month and a half, 2 months shaved off of that if I could just focus on, maybe even less if I could just focus on that, you know what I mean, and not have other work going on, it would be a lot less, but
Actually, I just have another question, regarding the writing processes.
Sure.
Have you ever actually storyboarded as you were writing? Because I know some productions actually write as they storyboard, they write using the storyboard. I mean, have you ever done that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, for instance, when I mentioned at the start of this graphic novel project I'm working on, it's like a whole mix of writing of notes and outlines and drawings. And it's just been a back and forth, because sometimes maybe I'll come up with something that's funny, like a visual gag, and it's like, well, how do I write that? I'm just gonna sketch it out, so I remember.
Because some of my favorite shows actually are storyboard, written as storyboards, and I'm sure then they probably write the script down, but it's they're written as their storyboard, completely animation driven.
Yeah, it's a very organic process, that, you know what I mean? You don't feel tied to a structure, or I have to sit down and I have to write the outline and I have to get the outline perfected and then move on. It's like I'm going to feel this, feel this process out. What's working right now? What do I feel would be funny? What do I feel would be dramatic?
Exactly, and it's different with every production. Sometimes, you have to find what process, what system works for you. I know Ed and Nettie, they did most of their voice actor, most of they got most of the voices done after the storyboards were complete, so they could get better performances out of the animation than the voices, which wasn't always the case. But I know that's what they did some of the time, and that's definitely not a traditional way of doing it in a studio in television process, but
right, yeah, in America, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's different. Like, even like in Japan, I mean, that's typical. Like, the voices are after the animation's completed, and they kind of have to, I guess, time the voices to what the animation. Where here it's opposite. I was just went to a recording studio for Kazumi's film recently, and that's what the guy there asked me. He said, "Okay, do you have the animation you want on the screen?" I said, "Well, no, actually, it's animation's done after the voice typically here." So. Yeah, so it's interesting, and it's not that there's a right or wrong way. It's all just different processes, and it's good.
It's all about what works for her.
I think Japan does it that way, is like to speed up the animation process and to make it easier for other countries to dub it.
Oh yeah, I think they definitely have to crank out a lot. I mean, I don't know how they do it. I know there's so many animes shows, and yeah, I mean, I've heard, I think over there, one of my friends was telling me that I think they get paid per drawing there.
Wow.
I could be wrong, but that's what we were talking about, different animation processes in the different parts of the world.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
And so after all this rough animation is done, you have to go back and draw every single frame again. Make it clean down to the last line. You have to make everything clean so it all looks fine in the final cut. What kind of process do you use to do that? Do you go in and digitally draw each line in the computer, or?
No, I still do that part on paper.
What kind of pens do you use for that?
I'm sorry?
What kind of pens do you use for that?
I use pencils, actually. I'm still use a B pencil for that line. Which is like, if for people who don't know, it's kind of like in the middle. Like if you look on these artist pencils, for people who don't know, there's no letters on them, letters and some numbers, and B is kind of like in the middle. You go, H is more like a harder lead, which will give you a light, thinner line, and then you go up like 2B, 4B, and the higher you go up, it's a softer lead, and you'll get a darker, thicker line. So when I'm really loose with the rough animation, I'll use like a 2B pencil, which is like a little softer, a little bit softer lead, and I get a quick dark line. But when I'm doing the cleanup, I'll use a B, which is like right in the middle, and everybody's different. It depends on how much pressure you press down when you're drawing. But you'll notice in this picture there's also a blue line.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And what that is that a lot of these traditional animators use a blue pencil, and it's called a color erase blue pencil. And the reason for that is because you can still be a little rough, like you're getting in the pose, and then you take what's called a kneaded eraser, which is a very malleable eraser, and you kind of blot down on all over the blue pencil, make it real light. And then you take your graphite pencil and you go over it with the final dark black lines. And the reason you use the blue pencil is because it's very easy when you scan it in for the computer to take out that blue line, and you're just left with the final clean black line.
Okay, so that this is still rough animation though, so you can get all the different shapes down.
Yes. And, yeah, even in the cleanup, I start with a blue pencil. Okay.
All right. Wow.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Get it down, and then go over it with the graphite pencil, making it, watching the line weights, the thicks and thins, and making it look interesting. And yeah, it's
what kind of pencil is that for our listeners? What kind of blue pencil is that for animation?
Blue pencil, it's a color erase, COL-erase, and it's actually an erasable colored pencil, and you can get them in all colors. I usually go to like Amazon or an animation supplier and buy like a 12-pack of blue because I only use the blue. But yeah, you can definitely do that.
And then you scan them into the computer, one page at a time, right?
Yes. Yeah, the border.
And then where do you go from there? You have to paint
I scan them into Photoshop. I'll take out the blue line, and nowadays I use Toon Boom Harmony. And it's one of the leading softwares in the industry, software programs in the industry. That and TV Paint, if you're interested. I have never used TV Paint myself, but I use Toon Boom. So what I do is I'll import all the drawings into Toon Boom, and then from there you have options. You can let it vectorize your drawings, which makes like these digital lines. Or for this film, I'm leaving like the pencil lines, and I color it in there, and I paint my backgrounds in Photoshop.
Okay.
So yeah, and then so I put it all together in there, and I'll put each shot together individually in there. So each shot will have its own file, and then I'll I'll export each shot uncompressed and bring the whole film together in Adobe Premiere Pro.
Wow. Okay, but still, every single frame is you painting that on a tablet or something like that.
Yeah. I have a Wacom tablet that I use, and yeah, I just paint every frame, and just touch up whatever needs to be touched up, and there you go. And then when I get into Premiere, I'll already have the dialogue, the actor's performance in Toon Boom Harmony. And then when I get into Premiere, I'll do the sound effects and the music.
Wow. Okay. And then also you have your what was that, Jacob? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Who's doing the music?
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up too. You have
one this time. I have a composer in Japan. So that was really, really exciting for me. Yes, she does work for anime, video games, all kinds of things. And I was lucky enough to come across her. She came across my work on Facebook. I had put out, in this group, I joined this group of composers for films. And because I was looking for music, I was, calling all around because I knew what the type of sound I wanted. I wanted a more traditional Japanese song sounding, very, very Studio Ghibli-esque kind of thing. So I put that out there, because I was calling around looking for musicians and I wasn't having much luck. And I hesitate to take the Facebook because it's kind of like, you don't know exactly who you're, dealing with. But this person had like a wonderful website and everything was, beautiful. So so I got her on board to do the music for the film, and I wanted a song created for the ending. And so she has a friend that's a singer as well in Japan, and she's gonna come on board and create an original song for the ending.
That's just amazing, David. I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, Jacob, did you have something else you wanted to say?
Oh no, I was gonna ask what her name was.
Oh, the musician is Tomo Tam, is what she goes by for in her music. I shared a link to her music. The singer I haven't announced yet. That will be soon. We're still working on the opening music first, but that'll be coming up fairly soon.
Sweet.
So yeah, it's a really exciting. I didn't expect to have the voice actors and the musicians. So this was really thrilling for me.
And all that stuff, although not exactly intentional in the beginning, it's all going to help, I'm sure, when it comes to promoting this piece, and so you can tell people, this person's involved. And
oh, absolutely, yes, definitely. It's exciting. It's fun because animation and film in general is definitely a collaborative effort. And, I've been doing it by myself for so long because I do these short films and, but it's definitely great to bring in more people, so like I said, it's all been a thrill for me, because I have this passion for animation and have other people come in and they're passionate about what they do, and to collaborate, it just makes for a real enriching experience.
For sure. And then after Kazumi is all wrapped up and finished, the final animation is colored and it's all put together. What do you have in store for next? Are you going to shop it around to festivals? Or are you going to
Absolutely. Yes, that's definitely the plan. It's going to go out to all the festivals. I'm going to be holding premiere events wherever I can, definitely in my area, and then take it to New York. There are animation communities where I will be partnering up with to do screening events.
Mm-hmm. And this is a bit random, but if you ever make it up to Grand Rapids, Michigan to hold some kind of premiere event, that would be absolutely fantastic, because I know there's a lot of people who would be very interested in that.
Oh, I'd absolutely love it. I believe I have some like distant cousins in Michigan. I'm pretty sure that they were from, so maybe I have to head up that way, and I would love to go anywhere and everywhere I can.
Well, if you ever make it up to, it doesn't even have to be Grand Rapids, Detroit, wherever, I'll drive there and I'm going to watch this film.
Well, that is so kind of you. Yeah, I will definitely, and after it's done, its run in the festivals, I will definitely be putting it online for everybody to see.
Be sure to stop by Central Ohio too.
Ohio. I would love it. Do a cross country premiere tour. That would be great.
And Ohio's just right below Michigan, so you wouldn't have to travel far.
Yeah.
Now, let's say just if this ever happened for you, David, and we're getting close to the end here. We've been on here, I think, just about an hour now.
Yeah, sure.
Let's say you shop this around the festivals, you attract some attention from some kind of network executives, and they want to take this and make a series out of it. What would your plans be for that, or do you not know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's definitely been in the cards. It's been on my mind. I would love to see. I've got some more stories for Kazumi and things like that. That would definitely be great. It's absolutely something I'm interested in.
Awesome. Well, it's so nice of you to come on here and tell us all about this. It's really nice to get a fresh new voice on this whole animation thing, since we usually while all of our other guests are very pleasant to talk to. It's kind of a I don't want to say one note because that sounds a little bit too sounds a bit mean, but it's nice to get some fresh new information in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
To learn about animation and what it takes. David, I'm sorry, Jacob, do you have anything else you wanted to say to help close us off here?
Oh no, I was just actually saying it's like a lot of the things you've said and talked about are actually quite enlightening. I look forward to seeing Kazumi finished.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's like we talked about earlier. It's like putting a little piece of yourself out there when you put your work out there. So to have such a kind, positive reaction, it really means the world to me. So I can't thank you both enough. This was just great.
I couldn't agree more, David. And everybody, you can go check out David's Facebook page and his YouTube channel. It's at David McBride Animation. Just type that in, you'll get it right away. You can follow him on there and see all of the new updates for Kazumi and David's other projects. David, was there anything else you wanted to say for our audience? Any final closing words of wisdom here?
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Like, if you're interested in animation and filmmaking, you'll probably hear this a lot, but just go out and do it. Just do whatever you can, film something, draw something that if you're getting into animation, you'll be told to keep a sketchbook, and that's definitely a good thing because, drawing opens your eyes to, things you may see every day, but just kind of gloss over. And then just in general, anything you want to do, if you have a goal, keep that goal in mind. You're going to have roadblocks and maybe some negativity thrown your way. But I always say, if you're on a path towards your goal, you may have to change your path, but keep your goal the same. So
exactly,
go for it. Why not? We only live once.
Exactly. And if you have an idea, go for it, and you can make it happen. Because
absolutely.
You don't need David. You obviously have a lot of very professional, great equipment, but you don't need all this kind of different stuff to just make ideas come to life. And
piece of paper and a pencil or a pen will do just fine. A cheap camera, whatever. It's
exactly
somebody. It was science fiction one time when I was little. It was science fiction. To talk on a device to somebody halfway around the world, and now we don't think twice about it.
Exactly.
And do what you love because you love it.
That's right. So don't even, somebody would have said you're crazy if you said like, hey, can I talk to somebody in China on my phone? Video chat with them or something like that.
What we're doing now here, right? I mean,
that's right. What we're doing right now, right? This was just like in the cartoons when we were little. So go for it.
And on those final words, everybody, we're going to close things off. I encourage you all to go follow David, like I said, on his Facebook page and YouTube channel, and Instagram too, I believe. Do you have an Instagram?
Yes. Yeah, David McBride Animation.
Perfect. So go follow him in there, folks, and make sure to check out our other podcasts. We have some great material for you to listen to, whether on the drive home or just at home. Do work on your own animation. It really doesn't matter. We really appreciate your view and.
Just a simple. It's like think about it. A lot of animation companies now started in a garage.
Oh yeah,
exactly. Just like us here, right?
Yeah.
Thank you to all our viewers. We really appreciate everything you've done for us. We'll see you next time. Bye bye,
everybody.
See ya.